So today I am taking the sixth text of the Shikshashtakam and I will speak on the topic of differentiating between sentiments and sentimentality. So the sixth text is Nayanam Galadashrudharaya Vadanam Gadgadardaya Gira Pulakair Nichitam Bapu Kada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati. So here there is a transition. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that the first 5 texts were prominently talking about sadhana bhakti. Now it transits to bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. So this verse marks the transition point. Sadhana bhakti is the stage of bhakti when the primary motivation for practicing bhakti is coming largely from instructions of the elders. Technically speaking, sadhana bhakti has 2 parts, Vaidhi bhakti and Raganuga bhakti. Both of them are a part of sadhana bhakti, but broadly speaking, Srila Prabhupada equates sadhana bhakti with Vaidhi bhakti, and Raganuga bhakti he puts at a higher level. So essentially, in the previous verses, the focus is more on glorification and intention. Glorification of the holy names, how they are so purifying, how they are so potent, being not different from Krishna. How that's glorification. The other is intention. I want to cultivate humility. I want to cultivate renunciation and begging to the Lord to elevate us. Now, from this verse onwards, we enter deeper into the realm of spiritual emotions. And Nayanam Galadashrudharaya, that when will there be a shower of tears from my eyes? Vadanam Gadgadarudaya Gira, when will my throat choke up because of divine emotion? Pulakair Nichitam Vapuhkada, when will the hair on my body stand on end? Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati, Bhavishyati. This will happen in the future. When will this happen in the future? When Tavanama Grahane, when I chant your holy names. So, emotion is expressed, experienced and reinforced through action. Sometimes there are people, modern people, postmodern people, they criticize rituals. There have been Bollywood movies which criticize rituals. They say these are just simply empty. But actually, in every activity that we do, there is a structure for expressing emotions. Now, when we meet a new person, we shake hands. Now, what is shaking hands? It's simply a ritual. Now, ritual is basically a structured way of expressing emotion. Now, we want to express warmth, cordiality, friendliness, and we express that through shaking hands. So, ritual basically helps us to express emotion when it is present. It helps us to experience emotion when it is not present. If we smile at someone, then if you're trying to smile genuinely, we may feel a little better also. We feel some warmth, some friendliness. And when emotion is there, it is also reinforced. Now, when a mother sees a child, the child runs towards her and she embraces her. That's the action. What does the action do? The action reinforces the affection, maternal affection that the mother has for her. So emotions are expressed, experienced and reinforced by actions. And the actions which are specifically designed to have this relationship with emotions, they are rituals in the spiritual realm. The rituals are not empty, they are purposeful. So here, in this particular verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is praying for the expressions of ecstasy. So 3 primary expressions of ecstasy are talked about over here. There is the visual, the verbal and the physical. The visual, the eyes stream with tears. The verbal, the throat chokes up. And physical, the bodily hair stand up. Now, Srila Prabhupada in his introduction to the Bhagavad Gita explains that Arjuna also had these symptoms. But those symptoms were because of great apprehension, great fear. He did not want to countenance, he did not want to contemplate, or he found it very scary to contemplate the prospect of a fratricidal war, which was right in front of him. So intense emotions can come from various sources, and emotions have, they are not just things in the head. Emotions have physical effect on the body. In fact, sometimes if the emotions are very intense, then the body does not have the capacity itself to experience those emotions, and then people faint. Now fainting can be because of great shock. Say if a person hears a news that a loved one has passed away, or some very disastrous thing has happened, then people may just standing and they faint. So basically, emotions have such a traumatic effect, not just at the level of the mind, but at the level of the body, that they can bring about serious physical transformation, such as even shifting a person from a conscious state to an unconscious state. It's not just physical pain that can cause this, it's even emotional. Emotions can cause this. There is also the possibility of fainting in ecstasy. And it is said that normally when we take darshan of the Lord, we go to the deities and take darshan. Actually, what should happen is when we take darshan of the Lord, we should faint in ecstasy and fall down. But usually there is no fainting, at least falling down should be there. That's why we offer pranam to the Lord. But the idea is that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is here, praying for the external manifestations of those emotions. Now he is actually praying for the inner emotion which will lead to these external manifestations. Recently I was discussing Shikshashtakam with some devotees. So one devotee asked this question, should we also pray for these ecstatic symptoms? Should we also pray that let me have tears when I chant, let me have the hair standing on end? Should I pray for these symptoms? So I explained, yes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has prayed, we can also pray. But quite often for us at our stage, the tendency is to get caught in externals, because of which we may well just think of these symptoms alone as important. And we think that those who have these symptoms, they are spiritually successful, they are spiritually exalted. And those who don't have those symptoms, they are not very spiritually advanced. So rather than praying for the symptoms, we can pray for the emotions themselves. And if the emotions come, the symptoms will naturally come. So every culture has certain things which are markers of respect. In a materialistic culture, if a person has a big car, a big house, a person is wearing an expensive dress, then that person, oh, you're wealthy, you're successful. So then people try to acquire those trappings. Now when a boy wants to impress a girl, if he wants to propose to her or have a date with her, he might just take a friend's car, which is a big car, and go to her. And the girl will think, oh, this boy is a very rich boy. Maybe let me go with him. So what happens is, in materialistic society, there's a tendency to just acquire the trappings of success without actually being successful. One pretends to be wealthy even if they are not wealthy. Similarly, in spiritual life also there is a possibility that one may try to just show off this external symptoms of spiritual success without actually becoming spiritually successful. And this is essentially what the deviant school of thought called Sahajiyaism is. The Sahajiyas, Sahaja means easy. Sahajiyas are those people who take spiritual emotions very cheaply. And they often make a appearance of having advanced spiritual emotions without actually being spiritually advanced. Now Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a guidebook for the advanced stages of Bhakti. And there these Ashta Sattvika Vikar, these 8 transformations of spiritual ecstasy. Ashta is 8, Vikar is transformation. Sattvika, normally we use the word Sattvika to refer to Sattva Guna. Thank you. I seek your blessings, Maharaj, that I can speak something. We are discussing a series of Shikshashtakam over here. So right now I am the 6th verse. Thank you. So the Ashtasattvic Vikar are the 8 transformations of ecstasy which Rupa Goswami talks about in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. At the same time, he doesn't describe these to be the only characteristics of ecstasy or characteristics of spiritual advancement. Along with these, he also talks about non-imitable characteristics. He talks about avyartha kalatvam, that a spiritually advanced person doesn't waste time. He talks about utkantha, about great eagerness to hear about Krishna. He talks about virakti, about detachment from material things. So there are a whole list of symptoms which are given which are not so dramatically visible. Now, tears coming from the eyes or voice choking up or hair standing on end, all these are dramatically visible symptoms. Whereas if a person is busy, doesn't waste time. That's not so, it is important quality, but it is not so dramatically visible. And that is why, whether we talk about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or his associates, whenever the characteristics of ecstasy are talked about, primarily the dramatic transformations of ecstasy that are there, they are talked about. But those dramatic transformations of ecstasy are the highlights of a life that is totally devoted to the Lord. Unfortunately, the Sahajiyas, their life is not so devoted to the Lord, but they try to have these characteristics of ecstasy in an artificially imitated way. And because of this, when people at one level pretend to be very spiritually advanced, at another level they often engage in less than exemplary activities, sometimes even immoral activities, then that leads to a lot of bad reputation, and that caused a lot of problems, especially by the time when Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared. At that time, Gaudiya Vaishnavism was often thought of as immoral, as using some show of devotion to perpetuate immorality. And that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, and thereafter Srila Prabhupada have spoken strongly against Sahajiyism. Actually, technically, the Sahajiyas, they didn't just imitate the advanced symptoms of ecstasy, but they also mixed Vaishnavism with some peculiar strands of Shaktism. In Shaktism is the worship of Shakti, that is the goddess. So there they have the idea that Shakti pervades nature and Shakti can enter into people. And so sometimes especially in the temples of the goddess, there are sometimes people who seem to go mad, or just go, not exactly mad is a strong word for it, but they just seem to act in very strange ways. They may start dancing, they may start crying, they may start shouting, and people say that the goddess has possessed them. In Marathi, Angat ale mante. So now there are, within the Shakta literature also, there are characteristics by which they decide whether it is actually a genuine possession or it is just an imitation. And the genuine possessions are very, very few. But the thing is, there they have the idea that the goddess can enter into a person's body. And certainly the devatas have the power to do that. But that is not a very common thing, and that is also imitated. But what happened with the Sahajiyas is that they took this Shakta idea that the goddess can enter into the person, and they brought it into Vaishnavism. So, for example, they would perform Ras Leela. So the Shaktas, men and women, they would perform Ras Leela. And not only would they perform Ras Leela, so rather than saying that this is actually imitating Krishna for mundane pleasure, they would actually claim that Radha and Krishna are entering into us. And when we are uniting, Radha and Krishna are enjoying through us. So this was a horrendous distortion of the bhakti understanding. No, we are meant to assist the divine couple in their leela. It is not that we can say that they are entering into us and we are imitating. So we imitate them, and then what happens is the immoral becomes conflated with the transcendental, and that leads to not only deviations within Vaishnavism, but a lot of loss of reputation outside Vaishnavism. And because of this, the acharyas, the recent acharyas especially, have strongly cautioned against Sahajiism. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur would quote the biblical saying, "Fools rush in where angels fear to tread." And he would use this to say that actually the advanced symptoms of bhakti, foolish people, they pretend that they have them. And by this, they rush into advanced areas of devotion, which actually even the exalted sages have been very careful in addressing. So there is this caution which is very much required because of, as I said, two reasons. One is the normal human tendency to try to show off the markers of success without acquiring success. So people in spiritual circles want to be advanced, want to appear advanced without actually becoming advanced. And one way of dramatically appearing to be advanced is to show the symptoms of ecstasy. The other problem is, there is also a whole tradition which tries to give intellectual rationalization for this by mixing Shaktism with Vaishnavism and coming up with an immoral deviation. So these are some of the reasons why our acharyas have been very strong in cautioning premature exhibition of emotions, spiritual emotions. At the same time, these emotions are indeed the goal on the spiritual path. And it is not that we have to be suspicious of emotions all the time. See, the transcendental is beyond the sentimental and beyond the judgmental. So one extreme is sentimental, means sentimental has two basic characteristics. One is that sentiments are considered to be the sole characteristic of spiritual advancement. If I have sentiments, I am spiritually advanced. So by sentiments, I am just the effusive upflow of emotions. That's all. So, and the other characteristic is that the practice of bhakti is made dependent on sentiments. That means if I feel good, I'll practice bhakti. If I don't feel good, I'll give it up. So when this happens, emotions alone are the fuel. Especially in Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, it is the instruction of the spiritual master. It is our own intelligence which is equipped with the guidance of the spiritual master that is meant to be the steady fuel. Because emotions will come, emotions will go. Sometimes while chanting we'll feel good, sometimes we may not feel good. But bhakti has to be done consistently. So sentimentality means emotions are the sole fuel for bhakti. If I don't feel good, I just give up the practice of bhakti. Another aspect of sentimentality is emotions alone are considered to be the goal of bhakti. And if somebody shows emotions, they're successful. So now this is sentimentality, which is a pitfall. But the other extreme is judgmentality, where any show of emotions or any manifestation of emotions is treated with extreme suspicion. And by treating with such extreme suspicion, it is as if anybody who exhibits any emotions is branded as a Sahaji. No, that is also not desirable, because bhakti is a path of growing emotions. And growing emotions means even at our stage, we can and should experience some spiritual emotions. Not necessarily they will experience them all the time, and not necessarily that their presence alone should be the fuel for our bhakti, but we do experience spiritual emotions. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is aspiring for these exalted spiritual emotions, these visual, verbal and physical transformations. The essential point is that he is asking for that inner devotion to Krishna, which will naturally manifest as these outer symptoms. And that inner devotion to Krishna is what is developed gradually by the steady practice of bhakti. Emotions are an extremely powerful force in human life. People can completely change the course of their life if they experience certain emotions. The two people may be very close friends, and somehow some altercation happens. One person feels that I was insulted by the other person, and to the extent they were close to each other, to that extent they may just go to the opposite extreme. In the Mahabharata, there is the example of Drupada and Drona. When they were Gurukul, they were very close friends, but then eventually, because of one unpleasant interaction, where Drona was dishonored, they became almost like mortal enemies. So these emotions are an extremely powerful driving force. Now suppose, say a car were moving in a very fast pace in a particular direction, and then suddenly we saw that the car is moving in the opposite direction in the same pace. You would wonder what made it move like this. Now to stop a car from moving forward, that itself requires a lot of energy because the car has momentum. But if the car which is moving forward suddenly starts moving backwards, that means the force which brought about that transformation, that force must be extremely powerful. So emotions are that kind of force. Emotions can make us move forward very fast in a particular direction, but if something changes, then the same direction towards which we were moving, we may move away from that with the same force. It's a similar force in the opposite direction, similar velocity in the opposite direction. And what brings us change is emotions. So sometimes, people who are, say, a man and woman who are attracted to each other, they may say, I can't live without you. And then they live together for a few months or a few years, and afterwards they, I can't live with you. So what has happened? That the same force of emotions that brought them together is now ripping them apart. So the problem here is, in any field, if emotions are the sole determiner of our actions, then there is no sustainability. There is no sustainability if emotions are the sole determiners of action. So in many romantic novels or movies, it is shown a man and a woman see each other, and then there is love at first sight. Now yes, sometimes it may happen that people may feel some attraction to each other when they see each other for the first time, but whether it is love or not, that will depend on what people feel after many sights. It is not only at the first sight. So that consistency in a relationship, that is possible when there is not a exclusive reliance on emotions or even a over dependence on emotions. Relationship requires not just emotions, it also requires commitment. Actually, Bhakti, there is this polarity or a duality. The path of karma is the path of attachment. The path of jnana is the path of detachment. Bhakti takes us beyond both this. Bhakti is the path of neither attachment nor detachment. It is the path of commitment. The path of commitment. We ultimately want to develop attachment to Krishna, but that attachment to Krishna doesn't come automatically. For developing that attachment, what we need is commitment. And if we are in the 11th canto, Nati Sakto Nati Nirvinno, in the Uddhav Gita, it is said that one should not be too attached or too detached. If one is too attached, one will be caught in just, okay, how will I get this object of attachment? How will I get this? How will I get this? And one will not be able to think of Krishna. And one is too detached, then also one will be thinking of the same object. How can I avoid this? How can I avoid this? How can I avoid this? So in either attachment or detachment, the focus of consciousness is on a particular object, either getting it or avoiding it. Whereas Bhakti focuses on commitment. We connect ourselves with Krishna, and in a disciplined way, we strive to practice the process of Bhakti. And by such practice, we move steadily and gradually the spiritual emotions awaken. So I'll conclude with two examples of spiritual emotions and whether they can be authentic on the path of Bhakti in our stage as sadhakas. So sometimes some devotees, they may say that, okay, Krishna came in my dream. Now, if Krishna comes in a particular devotee's dream, is it possible? Who are we to say what Krishna can't do? For Krishna, anything is possible. So Krishna can come in the dream of a sadhaka also. We cannot stop Krishna from coming, and we cannot make a legislation. You're a sadhaka, you cannot have Krishna coming in your dream. So Krishna can come in the dream of sadhakas also. The important thing is that our consciousness goes through different stages. Right now, we are in the stage of Jagruti. Hopefully. Some of us may be in the stage of Swapna also. So Jagruti, basically the soul is here, around the soul there is the subtle body, around the subtle body there is a gross body. So when the soul's consciousness comes to the subtle body, through the subtle body to the gross body and to the outer world, that is the state of Jagruti. When the soul's consciousness comes only to the subtle body but not to the gross body, that is the stage of Swapna. When the soul's consciousness stays within itself, not coming even to the subtle body, that is Sushupti. Sushupti is the dream state. And when the soul's consciousness focuses on spiritual reality, that is the stage of Samadhi. Samadhi means, it is also called as Turya, and the soul's consciousness is spiritually focused. Now in the path of yoga, Ashtanga yoga, this path of this Samadhi is achieved through the disconnection of consciousness with the physical and the mental realms. So yogas chitta vritti nirodha. That means the consciousness is withdrawn from matter and mind, from physical matter and mind, and then it is focused within on spiritual reality. On the path of bhakti, the consciousness is directed through the mind and through the body, that is directed towards Krishna. So a devotee doesn't have to be in a closed eyes to be in a spiritual trance, to be in Samadhi. A devotee can be with open eyes beholding the form of Krishna, and the devotee can be in Samadhi. So the point is, Samadhi is not just withdrawal of consciousness from the spiritual, physical and the mental levels. It is direction of consciousness to the spiritual level. So the reason I am talking about all this is that in Swapna stage, the consciousness comes to the level of the subtle body. It doesn't come to the level of the gross body. And Baldev Vidyabhushan, in his Govinda Bhashya commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, he analyzes the Swapna stage elaborately. And normally, whenever we say, oh, this world is like a dream, sometimes people compare like that, even spiritualists compare like that. The idea is, just as dreams are unreal, this world is also unreal. But Baldev Vidyabhushan turns this argument around and he says, yes, this world is like a dream, and just as this world is real, dreams are also real. What do you mean by dreams are real? Dreams are real means not that everything that we see in a dream is happening somewhere in some realm of reality, but rather dreams are happening in the subtle level of consciousness. And in subtle level of consciousness, we are either, when we see dreams, in some dreams we are observers, in some dreams we are participants. But in no dream are we the sole controllers. Now, even in a dream, everything doesn't happen entirely according to our plan. Okay, this person does like that person does like that. So he says that even in the dream, Ishvara is in control. So what happens in our dreams? So Baldev Vidyabhushan says, this is a whole elaborate subject of dreams. I'll focus on my point here. But the point of, he says is, the dreams are the means by which Ishvara gives us reactions to our minor karmas. Like some people, as soon as they go to sleep, they get nightmares. And they're afraid of sleeping. Why like that? Other people can just sleep peacefully. So they're getting those nightmares because those nightmares are a reaction to some minor karmas. If the major karmas were there, then they would have nightmarish situations in their real life. But minor karmas, so there are nightmares in their dream state. But the point is, the dream world is also real in the sense that there are reactions that come and it is also under the control of the Supreme. But he says the main difference between the Swapna state and the Jagruti state is the Svecha of the Jiva. Now we can consciously use our free will in the Jagruti stage, in the awake stage. We cannot consciously deliberate and choose in the dream stage. We may decide, okay, I'm driving a car and I come to a fork. I may go here, I may go there. I may choose that in a dream. But it's not that I'm consciously contemplating and choosing. The dreams happen. So, spiritual growth depends primarily on changing our choices. Right now, we are choosing the world, we are choosing worldly objects for our enjoyment. And spiritual growth happens when we learn to choose Krishna. And that is why spiritual growth primarily happens in the Jagruti stage, not in the Swapna stage. Because our Svecha, our free will, we use consciously in our awakened state, not in the dream state. And all this, the point of this discussion is, in dreams Krishna may come. That is Krishna's great mercy if he comes. But just Krishna coming in our dream will not make us spiritually advanced. Now, after Krishna comes in our dreams, when we wake up, what do we do after waking up? That is what will make us spiritually advanced. So because we use our free will in the Jagruti stage, not in the Swapna stage. Yes, it is Krishna's great mercy if Krishna comes in the dream. But if I think that Krishna has come in my dream, so I become an advanced devotee. And that's why I don't need to practice bhakti. Then we are unfortunately deluding ourselves. So, yes, if a devotee says that Krishna has come in my dream, yes, it's possible. We don't have to say, no, don't be a sahajya. If Krishna has come in the dream, fine, Krishna has come in the dream. We don't have to, from the devotee's point, from the other's point of view, others don't have to be judgmental and say that you are sahajya. But from that devotee's point of view, that devotee doesn't have to claim that, oh, I am so spiritually advanced, Krishna came in my dream. No. Actually, Krishna came in the dream, that's wonderful. But what do we do after waking up? If Krishna has come in our dream, we see that as a great mercy of Krishna. And we see that as Krishna's impetus, Krishna's encouragement for us to practice bhakti in a more committed way. So that's one example of how dreams can be, dreams about Krishna can be appreciated without sentimentality. The other is, sometimes we may ourselves experience some spiritual emotions. And in kirtans we may feel very good, sometimes darshan we may feel very good, sometimes even some little tears may come out of the eyes or whatever. Now when these emotions come, again we can be grateful to Krishna for those emotions, but we don't have to see those emotions alone as a sign of spiritual advancement. So Gaur Kishodas Babaji says that that actually the symptoms of ecstasy are meant to be the result of ecstasy. They are not meant to be the substitutes of ecstasy. So he used the example for that, that when a woman is pregnant and then she has labor pains, at that time she may cry out. And that crying out during the labor pains, actually that attracts relatives, friends to come, and they all help. And then through those labor pains, through those cries, a child is born. New life springs into this world. But if a woman is not pregnant, she says, oh, this woman when she cries, she gets so much attention, so I'll also cry. She may cry, but if she is not pregnant, all her cries, there's going to be no delivery of a child happening through that. So he says, the authentic devotees, they are like the pregnant woman. They have, by sustained contact with Krishna, sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukhamashnute. By sustained contact with Krishna, the spiritual emotion has grown within them and now it is manifesting. And in such a case, when the advanced devotees express spiritual ecstasy, there is further development of emotion, further deepening of the devotion that happens through this. But when somebody doesn't have that authentic devotion and then they start exhibiting these symptoms, then that is a show like a non-pregnant woman crying as if she has labor pains. So there may appear to be, externally one can make a very good show of labor pains also, but there is going to be no delivery. So sahajiyas can do like that, but there will be no spiritual advancement through that. So that's why sadhakas, if we have spiritual emotions, if we sometimes experience emotions in relationship with some devotional stimuli, we can be grateful for them, but we don't have to make a show of them. We don't have to tell the world about it. Last time I had kirtan, I felt tears in my eyes or this or that. We can, if to some close friends, we may mention them, but we don't have to parade that around. This is Krishna's gift to us, and more importantly, it is a gift that is meant to inspire us to practice bhakti in a more committed way. And then we will move onward steadily towards Krishna, when we will come to the level of what Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu calls as Sthai Bhav. Sthayi bhava means steady spiritual emotion. And that steady spiritual emotion comes by purification. When the heart is not so much focused on the world, but is focused on the Lord of the world, then that steady focus of the Lord naturally, steady focus on the Lord naturally brings spiritual emotions. And that is the purpose towards which steady bhakti practice takes us. So, once somebody came to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Swamiji, Krishna came in my dream yesterday. So Prabhupada just said, okay, serve him today. So Prabhupada did not deny it, Prabhupada did not glamorize it, he said, serve him today. Focus is on not whether Krishna came in the dream or not, how much are we committed to the service of Krishna. And when we stay committed to the service of Krishna, by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas, gradually purification will happen, spiritual emotion will awaken, and eventually, by Krishna willing, these spiritual symptoms of ecstasy may also manifest. So I'll summarize. I talked about how this verse takes us from the level of sadhana bhakti to the level of higher levels of devotion, bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. This is a transition. And then we talked about how emotions are not just things in the head. Emotions bring about physical transformations. They may cause even a person to faint when the emotions are unbearable physically. So there can be intense these transformations of tears, choking up of the throat and hair rising, visual, verbal and physical transformations. They can happen because of fear, as happened with Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, or they can happen because of ecstasy, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is aspiring for. Now, as intense spiritual emotions and spiritual advancement that can express itself in a dramatic way through these symptoms of ecstasy, but it can also express itself in a less dramatic but in a more reliable, less imitable way in the form of dedication, not wasting time, being detached from material things, being constantly enthusiastic to chant Krishna's name, being eager for Krishna. And those are the symptoms of ecstasy that our acharyas have traditionally focused on. And the reason for that, I explained twofold. One is that there is a normal human tendency to try to get the external markers of success without being successful. People pretend to be wealthy without being wealthy. Similarly, Sahajiyas pretend to be spiritually advanced by showing the symptoms of ecstasy without actually being spiritually advanced. And secondly, the Sahajiyas mixed Vaishnavism with Shaktism, and when they were imitating Radha Krishna, they claimed that Radha Krishna are entering into them. And in that way, they tried to rationalize their immoral dalliances. That's why Acharyas have told us to be very, very cautious about venturing prematurely into advanced emotions. So that sort of premature adventuring is sentimentality, and that is to be avoided. But sentiments are the goal of bhakti. The primary difference between sentiment and sentimentality is that in sentimentality, sentiments are the sole fuel for bhakti. If I feel good, I will practice, otherwise I will not practice. And sentiments are considered the sole marker of success of bhakti. People are not concerned about dedication, commitment, they are simply concerned about whether emotions are there or not. Bhakti is not the path of either attachment or detachment, but commitment. We discussed in any relationship, if emotions are the sole definer of the relationship, then the emotions may bring two people very close to each other very fast, and they may drag people far away also very fast. So sustainability comes not by emotions, but by commitment. And then at our stage, can we experience spiritual symptoms, spiritual emotions? Yes, we can. And I discussed how we can see them in a non-judgmental way. We don't have to be suspicious about anyone who claims to have spiritual emotions, but at the same time, we don't have to become sentimental also. So with respect to dreams, I took a little detour. Can Krishna come in our dreams? Discuss, yes. Krishna can come in the dreams, but in the dreams, we can't express our swecha very effectively. And spiritual growth primarily is based on molding our free will in a proper direction. That happens in the Jagruti stage. So if Krishna comes in someone's dream, that is Krishna's mercy on them. But their spiritual advancement will depend primarily on what they do with their free will. And that they can do when they wake up. So if Krishna comes in someone's dream, they don't have to broadcast it. They can see it as a symptom as a encouragement by Krishna so that they can become more committed in the practice of bhakti. And other times also, if we experience some spiritual emotions, we can be grateful for that, but we don't make a show of that. Just as we shouldn't be like a non-pregnant woman who pretends to have labor pain. No, delivery will take place. So by staying committed to the process of bhakti, gradually as the heart becomes redirected towards Krishna, then the advance into the spiritual ecstasy will also manifest when the spiritual connectedness with Krishna is there. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.